If-then statement. If-then statements for managing thoughts? Maybe. The answer is yes. Conditional statements are used to decide the flow of execution based on different conditions. If a condition is true, you can perform one action, and if the condition is false, you can perform one action or another actions. So that's the managing thoughts of if-then statements. What is the importance of using conditional sentence if-then statements in daily life? These sentences present situations and their possible outcomes. Conditional sentences are often used to discuss the results of the research studies or are part of a research hypothesis statement. Conditional sentences are perfectly acceptable and, in many cases, necessary to state and test a condition and its outcome. That's why the conditional sentence is very important. What do you mean by conditional statement in mathematics? So we have the if-then statement that's composed of two clauses. The first one is if clause. So if is a first clause and that is composed of letter P. And that's called the hypothesis. And another clauses is then and that is Q, letter Q, and this code is conclusions. We can write that in if P then Q. So this is a conditional statement. As statements, we have the first conditional statements and converse statements, and we have inverse statements, and we have contrapositive statements. So conditional statements, we know that it is composed of if-then statements, right? So that's if P then Q, or we can write as P then Q. Then if Q, then P, Q, then we have the symbols of then P. So that's the converse statements. And for inverse statements, that is negative, or there's a negative statements. There's symbols or words of not. If not P, then not Q. So this is symbols of not. This symbol, and we have the then not Q. If not Q, then not P. That's the contrapositive statements. And this is the example. Number 1, summertime is swimming time. You're going to write that in if-then form. If it is summertime, then it's swimming time. Then for hypothesis, or letter P, it is summertime. Then for Q, or conclusion, it is swimming time. For number 2, example, an 18-year-old Filipino can cast his hair vote during elections. So in if-then form, if he or she is an 18-year-old Filipino, then she can cast his hair vote during elections. For identifying the hypothesis of P, he or she is an 18-year-old Filipino. Therefore, Q conclusion, she can cast his hair vote during election. Another example, directions, transform the statement in converse, inverse, and contrapositive if-then statement. For number 1, if you're in love, then you're inspired. So this is the P, or we're going to say that is hypothesis, and the Q is the conclusions. So that is the symbol. For converse, if you're inspired, then you're in love. So this is Q and this is P. Okay, and then for inverse, that is if not P, then not Q. So if you're not in love, then you're not inspired. So there is a word of not. For contrapositive, if you're not inspired, then you're not in love. So this is opposite of the inverse. So this is a not Q and not P. For number 2 statement, if a number is even, then it is divisible by 2. Then this is a P and this is a Q, or P is the hypothesis and Q is the conclusions. Converse, if it is divisible by 2, then it is an even number. So we're going to alternate the Q and the P. So this is Q and this is P. For inverse, if it is not divisible by 2, then it is not an even number. So this is not P and this is not Q. For contrapositive, if it is not an even number, then it is not divisible by 2. So this is not Q and this is not P. Activity. State the converse and inverse and contrapositive of each conditional statement. Number 1, if an angle is obtuse, then it measures more than 90 degrees. So we need to state this in converse and in inverse and in contrapositive. Now let's do first the converse. So as you can see, this is the conditional statement. So when we say converse, that is if Q then not P. So it means this is the P and this is the Q. So we're going to use first the words Q. So if it measures more than 90 degrees, then an angle is obtuse. So let's have. So this is the answer. Okay, now for inverse, we're going to use the not. So here from the number 1, this is P and this is Q. Now we're going to use the not for P and not for Q. So this is the answer. If an angle is not obtuse, then it measures not more than 90 degrees. Then for contrapositive, we're going to do first the Q and P, then follows P. So we're going to use this one. If it measures not more than 90 degrees, then an angle is not obtuse. So as you can see, that is the opposite of inverse. And the opposite of converse is the conditional statement. For number 2, if the angles are vertical, then they are congruent. Let's do first the converse, the next inverse follows contrapositive. Okay, this is the converse. If they are congruent, then the angles are vertical. For inverse, if the angles are not vertical, then they are not congruent. For contrapositive, if they are not congruent, then the angles are not vertical.